Hello and welcome to this second session of the Whiteboard Warrior. My name is Andrew Jardine and today I want to introduce you to the wonderful world of WAWWA. Now, WAWWA is a part of a performance management dialogue, I guess, for want of a better phrase. Many years of delivering performance improvement training and performance management training. One of the main questions that managers ask me is around how they initiate the process. It's great to have all this structure, wonderful. We've got all these documents, all these tools, but how do we actually start a conversation with somebody that isn't performing? The reason for the headgear is generally what happens is people boil up to a certain point and then they come in and it's tie around the head, rip your sleeves off, have a Rambo day, which is not the most constructive or productive way to manage performance. So, after all of these questions about how do we do it, the concept of WAWWA was born. Started off in the civil service, and 2 years after delivering the first session on it, I returned to a very lonely outpost somewhere for a lady to call me the WAWWA man, which was I think that was quite an achievement within the civil service. Anyway, moving on. The three main reasons, let me take this off, it's a little bit weird, or weirder. Three reasons managers generally don't act. The first one is a lack of structure, or they don't feel they're going to be backed up when they make a call regarding somebody's performance. Second reason is around legalities. Nobody wants to get pulled into an employment tribunal, on a harassment or what do they call it these days? Harassment or unfair dismissal case. And then finally, good old popularity. The manager doesn't want to pull the boss card for fear that his team won't like them anymore, which is an interesting paradigm. Anyway, might come back to that later, probably won't. So I want to introduce you to the wonderful world of WAWWA. It's a very simple construct, and as I say, it's an introduction, it's a useful intro into managing performance. I'm going to use myself as an example. So here's AJ, performing beautifully. This is what we would call the required standard. So whatever the standards are in my business, I am doing them to a suitable, if not excellent degree. But then suddenly, oh no, something happens. We don't know what it is. We don't necessarily need to know what it is. Unfortunately though, that something that's happened has resulted in a decline in AJ's performance. From this point, you as a manager should be noticing. Now this decline could be a reduction in work, it could be a reduction in hygiene standards, it could be a general change in attitude. They become more surly, they don't want to interact with colleagues. It could be several things, it could be all of these things. But as the manager, you are constantly, you should be consciously aware of what's happening with people in your team. There may come a point where poor AJ, me, drops below the required performance standard. We'll talk more about required standards and minimum standards in another. I want to keep these films short, so we'll talk about it in another one. But if AJ drops below the required performance standard, or the minimum required performance standard, that's when we start to have a problem. Now you may have an informal conversation with AJ on this declining path. You might drop subtle hints. Hey AJ, have you fallen out with your iron mate? Not generally very helpful, these things, but you may do something to just highlight that you know. You may also want to sort of dig into something that might have happened. My advice would be at this moment in time, what happened is not so much as important as where the individual has ended up. So if you get bogged down in petty issues, you may lose the opportunity to act on actual performance. So anyway, we're now at this point. There's been this steady decline. AJ can't go any further. Not really, not without getting sacked. And it's down to you as a manager. You've got to act. Now this is what I call the WAWWA moment. And WAWWA, very simply, stands for we are, you can see what's coming, we are where we are. Such a profound truth, isn't it? WAWWA. We are where we are. Now, in the interest of performance and in the interest of developing a relationship with your team member, highlighting that, hey, look, I know something's happened, okay, and I can see there's a difference in your performance. I can see there's a difference in you. Now, as your manager, there is a point where I have to act. We have to say enough's enough. And unfortunately, AJ, we are where we are. What I need to do now is have a conversation with you to talk about how we can get you back up to being a productive, performing, contributing member of the team. What are your thoughts? And the process, the recovery process, should be one of collaborative idea sharing. What I mean by that is, it's not just about you saying, right, AJ, do this, do that, be better, be quicker. It's about saying, okay, what can we do differently? How can I support you better? Is there a requirement for training? Do we need to get a SMART objective on the case? It's a fairly soft and fluffy process, but it is, well, it's not going to affect your popularity either way, but it will create a supportive environment for somebody to embrace change, and that's what's important. In time, with a bit of support and training, AJ is happily back on track. In my own experience, where this has been enacted, this has been with my own team, with me personally, and having coached managers, what sometimes happens is AJ can end up not only being back performing as he should, they end up performing better. The sense of engagement is higher. This then opens the door to things like high potential employee schemes, or even getting involved in the company's succession plan. So, this is WAWWA. We are where we are. As a manager, it is your responsibility to act. Your role is to deliver performance through others. If you see there's a decline in performance standards, you must act. This is a useful introduction to get that conversation rolling. Please, if you've got any comments or any experiences you want to share, either write me direct, put something in the comments down below. I hope you've enjoyed this. My name is Andrew Jardine. This has been the Whiteboard Warrior. See you again next time. Ciao.